How you doing, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the Cajun Conservative Show, where we talk about life, talk about liberty, we talk about the pursuit of happiness, and we show the world that Cajuns do have intelligence. Hope you're having a good day, good week, wherever you're located. You just have to remember that this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So excited to be with you here today. We got a jam-packed show, ladies and gentlemen. We will have two guests on this show. First, we will have Dr. Michael Schwartz. He is the writer of Fauci's fiction. I have the book right here. Got it today. And we have an interview scheduled with him. Sounds like it's going to be a good book, ladies and gentlemen. We know that Dr. Fauci lies. I like how he did the cover, how Dr. Fauci's nose is growing. Pinocchio. Okay. But that's where we're going to be having Dr. Michael come talk about his new book that just came out recently. And then we're going to have Mr. Alan Seabaugh coming in and finishing us out on the third segment. Alan is a good friend of mine. He is running for Senate District 31. He is a rep right now in District 5, and he's trying to move on to the Senate in Louisiana, and that's our problem. That's our problem right now in Louisiana. We have a Senate that is just full of rhinos, and we need to make sure that the rhinos get out of office. And he talked about Rick Edmondson. I heard Mr. Edmondson this morning at the time of this episode. I heard him in the morning. He was talking to the voice of Louisiana, Moon Griffon. And I'm probably going to have to reach out to Mr. Edmondson and see if we can get him onto the show, another good conservative out there. And we just have a lot going on. But before we go on, I want to thank everyone that continues to listen to the show and supports the show. I could not do this without you. You are my family. You are my friends. And as always, if you want to continue supporting the show, there is multiple ways to do that. One is our BGS Media Store. You can go ahead and check out all the merch we have. We have Cajun Conservative merch. We have Brothers Just Searching merch. We're working on new shirts right now, as for logos with the Cajun Conservative and all. We're trying to expand the brand. We are a media company here now, and this is how you help us out. You go ahead and buy our t-shirts, our hats, our mugs. If you can do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. Just go type in on the search bar BGS Media Store. And also, if you say, well, I can't find it, go to the Cajun Conservative website, thecajunconservativeshow.wordpress.com. Hit one of the links to the episodes, and the link is in the descriptions of the show, or in this show. If you want to go ahead and look at the website while listening to the show, you can go ahead and do that. I want to give a shout out to Give-A-Derm. Give-A-Derm is a conservative, women-led company out of Tennessee. Give-A-Derm is it's dermatology, it's skincare, and they sent us some products, and it was me and my wife loved it. It was the lotion was good, the face cleaning was good. It helped our skin get more soft. It nurturized our skin. I go ahead and look into this the link in the description, and also when you go ahead and hit that link, when you pick all of them products to help your skin out, you can go ahead and put in our promotion code, which is BGS Media 10. BGS Media 10 as the promotion code. You get 10% off your products. And we want to thank Give-A-Derm for allowing us to have a partnership with them. That helps us out as well. So go ahead and check out Give-A-Derm. They're a great company, and we endorse them here at the Cajun Conservative Show. And I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen. You men out there that, I don't want to put on lotion, I don't want to put on face cleaning, I don't want to make my skin's supposed to be rough. Okay, I can understand the manly part of that, but you need to take care of your skin. And go ahead and check them out too. I promise you, rubbing some lotion on your hand will not hurt you. And they're like, wait a minute, he talks about being a man, and yeah, but I put on lotions. It feels good, especially their soap. You know, okay, let me say it like this, man. If you don't want to put on the lotions and the face cream, go buy the soap. The soap is real nice. You can go ahead and pick up the soap, and you have to take a bath, and it's all natural products. There's no chemicals or anything like that. And one day we're gonna have to call Give-A-Derm and get Ms. Julian on I believe it's Ms. Julian onto the show, and we get her to come on and talk about Give-A-Derm. You like the product. I promise you. I'm not into skincare and stuff, but you like the product. All right, let's go on. We got the bills out the way. Oop, that's all gone. Okay. ladies and gentlemen, and I was planning to talk about a lot more stuff. If you see my process for putting a show together, you see, man, as you got all these stories, how do you determine what's a good story to talk about on the podcast? Especially this week, we have 2 guests coming up, and so that's gonna cover most of the show. So you need this topic in the first segment, and I've already said this before. Sometimes you have to dig for a story. You got to go look. You got to see how you can plan it out and how you can, put the story together for the audience. And there's some times where you're just like, oh, that's the story that I need to go with. And we're going to be talking about Joe Biden. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we talk a lot about Joe Biden, but I think this is good news for the conservative side. It is that Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday, which is the 12th of September, the day after September 11th, Kevin McCarthy went ahead and formally announced that he's doing an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. And I'm going to go ahead and ask my imaginary live audience to go ahead and give an applause. Yes. It's all exciting, but there's a lot of things that go into this. This is a very serious thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is an impeachment inquiry. Now, we understand with Donald Trump. They didn't have nothing on Donald Trump with the 2 impeachments. Nothing whatsoever. Let me just say it like this. The indictment on the January 6th, it should have been an impeachment inquiry at the time when Nancy Pelosi and it was looking. They didn't have time. They just rushed it through Congress. But ladies and gentlemen, I was hearing some liberal pundits earlier talk about it, and they were saying that there's nothing to this. Nothing. That when the Democrat Party, when the Republican Party starts investigating, and the people start seeing there's nothing there, and the Republicans are fall on their face. This is nothing but a political indictment, impeachment, and they just want to get dirt on Joe Biden, which is funny. They're accusing us of doing that, but they're doing the same thing with Donald Trump. Now, left-leaning people might say, "Well, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth." No. On Donald Trump's impeachment inquiry, the so-called impeachment inquiry, because that's the impeachment inquiry where the Democrats told the Republicans, you can't come in. It's a closed-door session. The Republicans are like, we want to be in there. This is an impeachment inquiry. But the Democrats said, no, we're going to hear all the evidence. We're going to present the evidence in the trial, and you're going to have to decide if it's true or not. There was no back-talking. There was no cross-examination of the witnesses in this impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump, but they did it, and even that I felt it was important, because it's very serious when an impeachment is brought up of a president of the United States. But the difference with Trump's impeachment inquiries or inquiry, because he only had one, he didn't have one for the January 6th. They just ran right through it. The Republican Party have been looking into Biden ever since they got elected, because they knew there was something shady there. They knew with the Hunter Biden laptop, they knew they had something there, and they've been investigating them ever since they got into power in 2022. And it's kind of funny how every time, and I brought this out multiple times on the podcast, you can go back and listen. It's funny how every time there's a whistleblower that's about to talk about Joe Biden, an indictment comes up, and they have to hide the witness, because if the witness is seen in Washington, D.C., the feds are going to come and arrest them, and they're shut up. And if Congress asks for them to come and testify, the first words out of the feds' mouth would be no, because they're in an investigation, and they can't say anything because it might tarnish our investigation into that person. Or you might have with the special counsels, like, David Weiss. Why did David Weiss all of a sudden come on and say we're gonna have a special counsel into Hunter Biden? Well, this ties in. Well, if it goes into what I'm thinking it would go into, Congress was gonna ask Hunter Biden to go up, but now that he's kind of in an indictment, or he's in an investigation, all of a sudden they can't talk to him. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why Kevin McCarthy wants an impeachment inquiry, because an impeachment inquiry would override them. They can go into whatever they want. And look, the Democrats did it. The Democrats did it to Donald Trump. The Democrats went ahead and looked under everything to see if Donald Trump had a quick pro quo with Zelensky when he first got elected. All because he asked Zelensky, hey, can I go ahead and get some documents from this special prosecutor? And they were like, oh, Trump was not going to give him the money, and which they got every penny under the Trump administration. And Trump said, no, I'm going to release the transcript. Release the transcript. It didn't even say nothing like that, but they continue with an impeachment inquiry. And they evidently did impeach Donald Trump in the Congress. Now, he didn't get convicted, both sides. Donald Trump's the only president to get impeached twice, by the way. He's also the only president to get indicted. So, but it never stuck. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why this impeachment inquiry is happening, because the Biden administration, I don't care what NBC tells you, I don't care what CBS tells you, I don't care what CNN tells you, the Biden administration have been trying to block everything Congress has been trying to do. Everything. Every time Congress wants, look, clear example of something that they've been trying to block. Remember when the FBI, they wanted that paper of Trump, of some with the financials? I can't think of it. It's been so long, well, a couple of months, but it was something they needed from the FBI, some paperwork, and the FBI stonewalled Congress until Congress threatened to have him contempt of Congress for not honoring a subpoena. And when it was released, whoop-de-doo, guess what covered the media? It wasn't the paper, the FBI paper that was hidden, that proved that the laptop was real and other things was real. Oh, Donald Trump got indicted today. That was one of his 4 indictments. It's funny how every time something major happens in the Biden case or the Hunter Biden scandal, it's an indictment or something else breaks in the news. Because they're trying to stonewall Congress, and this is the only way they can go ahead and get that information. Will this lead to an impeachment vote? Absolutely. I predict, and I could be wrong. I am not Rush Limbaugh, so I could be wrong. Rush Limbaugh had a 99.8% accuracy rate. I'm not that accurate yet, however. But I predict Biden will be impeached in Congress. All you need is a majority vote. And unless there's some stupid Republican out there that, I'm not doing it. 9 out of 10, he's going to get impeached. He will be impeached, and he will go to the Senate. They will have an impeachment trial. And in the Senate, unfortunately, I don't see him getting thrown out of office. Unless, now this is another sidetrack of my prediction of this, only if the Democrat Party say, we really don't want Biden to run for president, and he has done more harm to us than good. Yes, it's Kamala Harris, but she can finish out the term. She can run for president, and if she wins, that's 2 terms for Kamala Harris. And she would have the power of the incumbent because she would be labeled the 47th president of the United States. That would be the only reason I see the Democrat Party impeaching Joe Biden. And look, I'm going to say it like this. It's already up in there. There's critics on the left that are calling this a political witch hunt or a political. This is all political. The Republican Party's just doing this because they want dirt on Joe Biden. Like there's not enough dirt out there for us to use in a campaign. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the media is they're running scared on this because a Democrat president is being and look, he's not even impeached yet, but it's just he's facing an impeachment inquiry. It got them going all in loops, ladies and gentlemen. They are running scared because it's a Democrat that's being investigated. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't see it being resolved anytime soon. Now, there's also a lot of questions before we move on with the show of, like I put out a video on TikTok earlier today talking about this. Every day I try to put out a TikTok now. And it was a lot of people on my comment section was, it's a little too late. Oh, they should have did this earlier. No, I think Congress did right on that. If any of my TikTok followers are listening, I think he did right. I think that Kevin McCarthy waiting is the right move, because if he would have did this earlier, yeah, it would have. The left was saying it'd say something regardless. But ladies and gentlemen, I think he did. He made sure there was enough evidence to put this through. Now, I want to go ahead and address something on the left with a little bit of time I have left on this first segment before we move on to our guests. These are the same people, because I talked about earlier how people on the left are saying that, look, there's nothing here. Nothing whatsoever. The Republicans, this is just a political this is something political to try to stop Biden. This is so wrong and evil. Now look, they have not heard any arguments. They have not heard any evidence that the Republican Party brought up, because one political pundit said, well, there's no proof. They have not said anything that proved Biden benefited from his family. Well, okay, that part, okay, I will admit. Directly, they don't have a checking account with Biden's name that got $34 million in it. They don't have that. But there's Swiss bank accounts that have ties to Hunter, Joe Biden's brother, his 9 family members, all the whistleblowers that come out. Nope, there's no evidence. These are the same people that have not heard any arguments yet on Donald Trump's indictment say he's guilty. They believe he's guilty because CNN, MSNBC, and some form of media and some stupid pundit on one of these stations said, well, there's no proof. There's no proof whatsoever. He's not, no, there's proof of Donald Trump, but there's not proof of Joe Biden. Think about this. These are the same people. Now, they can always backfire the argument. I'll play devil's advocate. Well, you say Donald Trump's innocent and you didn't hear no evidence. Donald Trump he's been transparent. And you wonder if there's anything there when they set up the court dates to interfere with his re-election campaign. But ain't this doing that Biden? No, Biden don't have to be there for the impeachment trial. No, he don't have to. He can still go ahead and campaign if he does. But ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Party have done a good job showing people what the Bidens have done. You have whistleblowers. You have paperwork, FBI paperwork that shows what the Bidens were doing. It is clear every time. There is phone records. There is eyewitness accounts of Hunter Biden picking up the phone, calling his dad during a meal. But the people there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Ladies and gentlemen, this just shows that if you're not transparent or you're not open-minded, you're gonna believe whatever comes down out the chute. And this is, I hate to say it, this is some Republicans too, but mostly Democrats. Whatever Communist News Network says, CNN. Oh, it's true. CNN said it. It's true. They don't go ahead and look at all the evidence. They don't hear all the evidence. This is why I like watching debates, because I get to hear both sides of everything. But ladies and gentlemen, this right here, this is the start of something right here with this impeachment inquiry. Like, do I take it lightly? Do I make fun of it? Like, I did the applause? No, I'm happy it's going on. But ladies and gentlemen, this is one thing I am scared about this impeachment inquiry. To be honest with you, I'm afraid the Republican Party will mess it up. I'm hoping Kevin McCarthy don't get a sweetheart deal to where he can't pass and he stops all this. I just hope he's true, because this is something else too. He is feeling the pressure for this impeachment inquiry. It is there. It is strong. But ladies and gentlemen, we will have to see what's going on. And let's just let the process play out. See, that was one thing the Democrats told us too. Let the process play out. If he's guilty, he's guilty. If he's not, he's not. Now these are the same people that are saying, well, no, it's a political thing. No, let the process play out. Let's see what happens. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a break. Then we'll be right back with our friend, Dr. Michael, to talk about his book. So please stay tuned for that. We'll be right back in a few moments. So stay tuned.
That the four things that I think are most important is to be tough on hardened criminals. The criminal justice system, you got to help out people. And I did this for years and years and years as a prosecutor. Probably 80 to 85% of the people that came through the DA's office and through my prosecution experience, they got help to get back on track. About 15% were just hardened criminals that didn't deserve to be helped. They needed to go somewhere where they could not be a danger to you and I. And so we took care of putting those people in that place. I will fight for victims' rights. I've been a vice president of Crime Fighters, the largest victims group in the state, and dealt with victims all across the state and helped them navigate the criminal justice system and soothe their broken and aching hearts from their losses. And so I would continue to do that. I'd promote the early intervention program, and I would always, always, always be pro-life, pro-gun, and pro-Louisiana and fight for all your constitutional rights. So if you want somebody like me that has a tough on crime background, I think you would be well suited to join our team, and I would be honored to have your vote on October 14th.
This message is authorized by the campaign to elect Marty Maley Attorney General.
Cleansed and made us whole. Not one hub, not one soul.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the second segment of the Cajun Conservative Show today. I have the honor and privilege of having on the show Dr. Michael Schwartz. He is a writer of Fauci's fiction. Got the book in today and read a little bit. Very fascinating book. And Dr. Michael, welcome to the show today. And how you doing, first off?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Isaac. I appreciate your time.
Oh, all the pleasures is mine, man. I love when writers come and talk to send me emails like, hey, we want to come on your show. And there's so many books out there, Dr. Michael, and I love when y'all guys send us books and want to come on to get the word out about things that need to be told.
Yeah, that was the important part of this book. You know, we were the first company in New Jersey to do a COVID test, and I have a couple offices. I'm down in Tampa, Florida now. I was down in Key West, and I have a clinic up here in Jersey. So we were literally the first company to do a COVID test, and culminating with 19,000 patients, 44,000 tests. I think we're the only company in the country that has horizontal data. What that means is we tested a lot of the same people every single week for 3 years, a lot of cops and assisted livings. So the need came out, the need was there to write this book. I had so many patients that we would talk to every day about this stuff that's in here. And, you know, it's kind of amazing. After 3 years, no one understands how viruses transmit, how tests work. It was so important to tell the real facts about COVID. It's not, even though it's called Fauci's fiction, it's not about Anthony Fauci, but the data has everything to do with Anthony Fauci.
So let's go on, you know, with that. Tell us a little bit about your background, you know, because a lot of people would say, well, look, you wrote this book right here, and you know, but are you a real expert in this stuff? So let's get a little bit of your background.
Sure. Well, I'm a research doctor. I've got 5 different degrees. I have a very diverse background. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. I'm a private pilot. I'm a former police officer. I have 3 different business degrees. My job is to analyze data, but I do own medical clinics. So it's funny because a lot of folks will come up to you and say, well, you're not a medical doctor. Well, I never purported to be. It tells you in the first paragraph in the book that I'm a research doctor, and my job is to analyze data, but I employ medical staff. So I have MDs, DOs, a lot of NPs that work for us. And when you're looking at the data on the ground, you know, I have a couple medical certifications as well. And when you're analyzing this stuff every day, you start to notice trends. And the trends that we saw every day did not match what the CDC, the government, the media was telling everybody in the country. And now a lot of the country is kind of caught up. You're starting to see that, oh, we realized vaccines didn't work. Well, you know, we told everybody this when before the vaccines came out, that they were going to work like flu shots. That's how they're engineered. That's kind of the point of the book. It's funny. Folks will come up to me and say, hey, hindsight's 20/20. it's great to have shows like yours on. I actually did a podcast over 2 years ago. It's called Calderese Unleashed. And I did a long form 2-hour episode pretty much explaining everything that's in this book way before it came out. So we were trying to get the information out to the public that this wasn't as deadly as everybody thought, that the mortality rate was going to come down. We predicted it would be kind of close to the flu, and that's where it is right now. We let folks know that there was going to be some issues with the vaccines. We could talk about that if you want. But a lot of this stuff that folks don't understand, I mean, it's kind of blows your mind when you're in the middle of a global pandemic that everybody's telling you, hey, people are dying from, and this could be the worst thing we've ever seen in our entire lives. The quicker you get that information out to the public, the better, because we saw that the cure was in some cases worse than the disease. You know, the schools shut down, the lockdowns, the suicide rates going up. So that's kind of the point of the book. It explains COVID from the 30,000-foot view.
Now, you're talking about, because you have Fauci on the front of the cover. So you're here. You remember with the lockdowns and stuff. With this disease, they did ask people to shut down their business, but they didn't just ask. They told them, hey, you have to shut down. We have to shut down the economy. You have to shut down your churches. You got to shut down everything. But according to Dr. Fauci of August of 2022, he said that was never done. He only recommended that be done.
I don't think the public feels that way, especially the folks that lost their jobs. I just got off TV. I was doing an interview on OAN, and they were talking about the New York City school teachers getting their jobs back. I think it was 1,750 people lost their jobs, not just teachers, but in the entire in Manhattan or New York City. And they finally got their jobs back because a judge ruled that they didn't look at the religious exemption. And I said on TV, I said, what about the smart, objection? What about the people that were intelligent enough to say, hey, no, this is my body? Yeah, they forced a lot of people into doing a lot of things, whether it was, 15 days to stop the spread, which turned into almost, a couple of years, or folks losing their jobs. It was blatantly inappropriate. I think that's the point, Isaac. We knew a lot of this stuff within about 2 months. We had, at that point when we had enough, we were we were the first company to do a COVID test. So by the time we had about 2 to 3, maybe 400 patients under our belt, we started to draw those trend lines out and say, hey, this is kind of what we expect. And we're trying to tell folks, but as you see with what happened with Twitter and what happens with the mainstream media, if it wasn't for guys like you online telling people the truth, the public would never know.
And look, I'm getting heat for it right now because, as you know, there is another variant out there that has come from Canada, surprisingly, right before the 2024 election. You have schools that are saying, hey, we're going into full-blown protocol for COVID. You have a movie studio, Lionsgate, saying, look, we're going to go into full-blown coronavirus protocol. You even have the White House in protocol, in COVID-19 protocols. And look, Dr. Michael, as you said, a lot of this stuff was proven at the beginning, and we didn't have to go through all this, but they're still pushing those same lies now. And you have to wonder, is that a political, agenda behind that to stop people from necessarily, basically interfering with the election going forward because they're going to try to keep people in their homes again?
There's a lot of science to it, and that's part of the problem. And, you can go on an interview, you can talk for 15 minutes and kind of get some of this stuff out, but that's why I wrote a book. I can tell you how the numbers disappeared and how they could come back at some point, because you got to understand, a virus, first of all, isn't a living thing. A virus is, it's like an amino acid. It's either active or inactive. And what a virus does is it makes a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. There are thousands of variants out there that you've never heard of, because viruses, the moment they enter your system, are looking for the best version of themselves to survive. Most of them burn out. So when you talk about a new variant, it's just a new variant that knows how to bind better. The thousands of variants that have burned out, you just don't ever hear about. And there are variants that are binding fairly well. COVID has never gone anywhere. The reason that the government takes credit for the numbers going down is pretty simple, and I can explain it to your viewers here. Yeah. What happens, I could draw a line, and I don't know if I'm going left or right here. I'll just go across. But when the numbers you saw in the beginning, that spike you saw, that, oh my God, the test numbers are going up, that wasn't the actual number of COVID cases out there. That was the number of tests of cases we could catch up with the amount of equipment we had in early March and April of 2020. Once the labs came out with some ingenious ideas and they created their own test kits, and the CARES Act got instituted, that allowed anybody in the country to get a test at any time. And when you tested everyone in the country, you found out that everybody had it, so the numbers go way up. When they instituted the rapid test and gave that out to everybody, every household, I think there were 8 per household in the country, those numbers don't get reported. You're not at home getting a rapid test, calling the county saying, hey, I'm positive, I need to isolate. Not happening. So those numbers then go artificially down. When the CARES Act expired and you could not get a test anymore in this country, now you have to have a symptom. It's back to what it was in the beginning, cough, fever, or shortness of breath. But I will tell you, in my data of over 19,000 patients and 4,000 positives, 90% of my positive patients were asymptomatic. They never had a symptom. That tells you that most folks who have this never get a symptom. So in order to test now, you have to have a symptom. So when you do that and you have to have a symptom to test, guess what? The numbers go way down. So then the government comes back and says, hey, we solved COVID. If they start to reinstitute a form of the CARES Act again, where they start allowing everybody to test, because, by the way, the numbers are still out there. COVID is very real. It's just not as deadly as everybody purported it to be. But the numbers are out there. We're actually having a surge right now. We were having a surge. I told my immunologist weeks ago, before you heard it on TV, that we were having a surge. He didn't believe me. Then he called me 3 weeks later and said, you were right. I'm in the lab. We're having a surge. I said, yeah, this is what we do for a living. We are kind of experts on this. If they start to institute a version of the CARES Act where everybody can test, those numbers will artificially then go up again. I shouldn't say artificially. You will catch what's out there. And that if that drives the narrative, and then I know, a lot of hosts will want to talk about the elections and starting to, let's do the mail-in ballots. If you start seeing that again, that would be the narrative at that point. That would be where the direction that they're going if they start allowing everybody to test again.
So on a question like this, because I've come on this podcast multiple times already, and I said I'm not wearing a mask. So if I don't wear a mask, or I have never taken a vaccination for COVID, and I don't plan to. But that's me. I'm a free man. I could do that. I should be all right then if I don't put on a mask. Like a lot of people are saying that we should go back to.
Okay. So first of all, number one, I applaud you for not taking the vaccine. You're a smart man. Neither did I. And a lot of people will ask me, they say, did you have the vaccine? And I say, no, because I'm not an idiot. So welcome to my world, Isaac. You and I are on the same page. And by the way, we did not recommend a vaccine in the beginning because we thought there was going to be issues. We are seeing them now. The reason we didn't recommend the vaccine to any of our patients was because it didn't work. Within a couple months of the vaccines being out, we started calling our patients and what they would call on TV breakthrough cases. We never use that word. You could break. We told our patients from the beginning you were going to need multiple shots, that you were probably going to need this once a year like a flu shot. And what we see in practice is a 120-day antibody response. We don't see long-term immunity. We don't see 10 years or life immunity like polio. We see 120 days. So it is kind of irresponsible to call this thing a vaccine in the first place. That's number one. But you had asked about, now I'm skipping over, you had asked about the masks. We never required a mask in our offices ever. We do not wear cloth masks or surgical masks for virons. A lot of people will ask you, why do you wear them in the hospital? Our staff wears them in the hospital so we don't get over splatter on our face and we don't drool into the operative field. And I equate it to something like this, Isaac. If I were to take you to the Wuhan lab or the Winnipeg lab in Canada, and I wanted to walk you through the viral area where we test the viruses, and I said, here, put this cloth mask on, you would think I was nuts. It only takes one live particle to infect you, period. And something the size of COVID, you could fit 500 million on a pinhead. When you have somebody symptomatic in a room, they are so small, they do not settle by gravity. They are literally floating around the room. So when you have somebody symptomatic in a room, you're breathing in millions of particles. One live particle can infect you. And if you think a cloth mask, and we're not talking about using the filter, we're not talking about, this is not duct taped to your face. You've got areas where you're sucking air in, the path of least resistance. It's doing zero for, it's actually making it worse, because the majority of the patients that wear those on their face every day are coming in our offices with staph infections, RSV, H flu. There's a ton of bacterial pathogens, Moraxella catarrhalis, Klebsiella pneumonia, and they wind up getting these things because these things are breeding ground for bacteria.
And it's just funny. Something that's supposed to help you is knowing more to hurt you. So let's talk about the testing, because I read part of the book where you said that the media would say one thing. Y'all will tell your patients, no, this is the real data, and they wouldn't believe you. Is that still going on 3 years after? Since I know your book's out to explain all of it, but you still deal with patients and you still do COVID research.
Yeah, I mean, it's slowed down quite a bit. Once the CARES Act expired and you're not allowed to test anymore, that slowed down. Now we only see a sick patient once in a while, and every time we run a respiratory path. Let me talk about that for a second. It's very important. Before COVID existed, when you came into one of our offices, we would do what's called a respiratory pathogen panel. So our patients knew what COVID swabs were before the rest of the world did, because if you came to me sick, we'd swab you. There were 30 things on our panel at that time. Now there are 31 to include COVID. It is very important that you diagnose exactly what you're treating. So if and most people who were sick with COVID had a co-infection to go along with it. You would not know that if you were doing a rapid test or if you were doing a COVID only test. So it is very important to go to a practitioner that knows what they're doing. Unfortunately, most of these guys and gals shut their offices down at the beginning of COVID. They were scared to bring it home. And these were the same people now recommending a vaccine, knowing nothing about COVID. It's kind of contradictory and it's stupid. I lost a lot of respect for the medical community. I lost a lot, and I work with a lot of good doctors too, but I lost a lot of respect for the greater medical community, the CDC, the NIH, people like Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx. They were coming out telling you, certain things. Just to distribute a rapid test. You cannot confirm COVID on a rapid test. That is one of the stupidest things I have ever seen. And if I explain that, your mind will be blown. It's explained in the book, but you can only diagnose COVID on a PCR test, period. If someone is using a rapid test, they come in and they tell me they were positive or negative, I kind of laugh in their face at this point. Yeah,
there's so much. And I know we only on a 15 to 20 minute interview, but there's so much in this topic that we can get to. But just the mention of COVID, I'm seeing people ride around by themselves in masks now. And like you said, I think this book's going to explain a lot to people that they just didn't know about it. It's strange that we're 3 years in, we still don't know. Us as like you've done this all the time, you know a lot about it, but the normal person like myself, we still don't know that much about COVID.
I used to get very upset with some of my patients because I'd say, come on, you're an adult. You have time to go out there and do research and pay attention. But I can't blame them. I can't blame guys that are sitting around saying, hey, I just don't know, because the media and the government were not letting the information out. I was talking to political candidates at the time. I was talking to senators, assembly people in my state, trying to let them know, hey, this is a little ridiculous the way we're handling this, and here's why. They would hear what I say, and then they would say something like, well, why are you the only guy saying this? And I'm realizing, well, there's a lot of doctors like me, research, medical, otherwise, that are saying this, but they're being shadow banned. They're being censored. Now the public is starting to catch up because, at this point now, I think everybody knows that the vaccines don't work like traditional vaccines.
Right.
It took us a long enough time to get that information out. We were trying to tell them right from the beginning, but it took probably a good year and a half before people realized. And people still don't understand. There's still people, like you said, wearing masks in their cars. And like I said, we don't wear them in the office. And people would come in our office and say, why aren't you wearing a mask? Because we practice real medicine, because we understand science. We'd rather teach you the truth so that you know how to protect yourselves, rather than, just perpetuate a narrative that makes you feel better mentally. I mean, I want you to feel better, but not for the sake of lying to you, just to get through the day. Let's all work together to understand this thing. That's kind of the point of the book, Isaac. I mean, it is a shame. Your listeners should be upset that they got locked down, that the suicide rate went up, that their businesses shut down. I have friends who've lost their businesses. We should all be very upset, and somebody should be held accountable for this, because somebody is culpable for doing this. I shouldn't have been the only one that had this information in the beginning. The government had to know this, and guys like me were trying to tell them. They took away a lot of medical licenses from folks in California for trying to get information out like this, because it said it didn't go with the narrative that the CDC was pushing. Yet these people were screaming at the top of their lungs to try to protect guys like you and me from doing something stupid. So we didn't shut our businesses down and commit suicides and all this nonsense that we saw. So it's a real shame.
And so we didn't shut down for COVID because we were part of construction. We were part of the essential people. But you know what got me upset, Dr. Michael, was more the churches. I just, because maybe you can answer this. How come COVID was immune in Walmart, Home Depot, Super One, but you go into a church building to worship God? Oh my goodness, COVID was going rampant in the churches, and you had to be 6 feet apart. You had to do live streams and stuff. And we're seeing, as a youth pastor and as a minister, I'm seeing the data. You know how many people say, well, we really don't need to go to church no more. We just watch it on Facebook. And I'm just, that bothers me, because you took something that was essential to people's lives and said, oh, well, now we can just watch it on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, I applaud the work you're doing, Isaac, and that's great that you're helping out with the kids of this nation and trying to get them on the right path. It is kind of reprehensible that they said, you know, it's okay in Walmart, and people will tell you all the time it's about money, right?
Right.
But who's the government gonna piss off? If you pissed off too many people, they would revolt. So it was like, where's the fine line? You know what? I talked about this on a show not too long ago on the plane scenario. You know, when they started instituting masks on the plane, I said if 50% of us said we're not doing this is stupid, but the other 50% said we are doing this, they would have kicked us off, not them, because they were complying. Where was that critical mass? You know, when would it be? Would it be 75%? Would it be 90%? What would the ratio have to be for enough of us to say enough is enough before the country would give in? We gave up a lot of our freedoms, and we didn't need to. I wish people had this information out there before they got the shots, because we are, like I said, we're seeing a ton of heart issues, joint issues, stuff that we're finding a year, 2 years later on an incidental finding that we have a study to prove it wasn't there. They fooled a lot of people, and it was at the expense of our youth, especially of our folks who want to go to church and pray and get together and congregate, which was what we were missing in all these years by being locked down. It is a real sad day. Like I said, I mean, look, we're taught in the religious community to forgive, right?
Right.
But we can never let this happen again.
No.
Learning is just as important, because the folks that don't learn from this, we are doomed to let history repeat itself.
And I think that's because Anthony Fauci the other day made a statement saying, well, I hope people comply, because, you know, it really is essential to their health. And I'm thinking to myself, there's too many Americans like myself and you that will say no. And I think people are starting, like you said, starting to educate themselves to say, wait a minute, we're not going to let this happen again in this country, because, okay, and this is where the politics come to the side of it. I honestly believe, Dr. Michael, that if Trump was not president, our economy would have went to crap. And we would not have survived as a nation. The reason we survived economically in COVID-19 was because of Donald Trump, in my humble opinion. If we would shut down the country now with the Biden economics, God help this nation. People would lose money, and our economy would crash. That's my honest assessment of this situation.
We're kind of getting there now, Isaac. The indicators are there. You know, if you look at the inflation rate, if you look at the economy, interest rates, there are a lot of banks that have gone out of business as of late. There are a lot of indicators that are showing us that we are pretty much on the brink. And I agree with you. Donald Trump gave us a stellar economy, one that we haven't seen in many, many years. But I don't think COVID would have been COVID if it wasn't smack dab in the middle of a presidential election. You know, these folks used this. They exploited this. They exploited what we had in a good economy to probably, and I don't write about this in the book because I don't get into conspiracies. I just write about the data.
Right.
You can make your own determination. But a lot of hosts ask me and they say, what do you think? It's obvious that they exploited this. It's obvious that they took a full advantage of mail-in ballots and trying to blame this on COVID. I was just telling you how the numbers go up and down. It's artificial. It has nothing to do with the president, what he did. And then, of course, you know, I get people who get triggered just at this cover who haven't read a word of the data that's in here, and they think I'm bashing Fauci. I'm not. He's mentioned 3 times. They think it's a MAGA book. Donald Trump is mentioned twice in this entire book. It has nothing to do with politics. But that just shows you the dichotomy in this country. Liberals are getting triggered at the cover, where conservatives will sit here and read it and say, hey, I read the data and wow, you did a great job. And there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. I finally did have a couple liberals read this book and get back to me, and I was really nervous about what they were going to say. What I realized was quite different. I might have a market here, Isaac, because those folks, they haven't heard what we've been talking about. They haven't discussed this. They don't watch the same channels we watch. They watch MSNBC and CNN. So they've never heard any of this, where you've probably heard half of this already. And those folks that read it went, wow, you blew my mind. I didn't know any of this. So maybe there's a market for people in the middle that can come back to us, and maybe we can get this country back at some point. But I mean, the dichotomy, the polarization that we see, it was obviously this was politically exploited.
And look, I disprove every liberal that says, "Oh, that wasn't political." It was really. It's funny, when Trump was in office, you had the death count on every channel, including Fox News.
Yep.
Biden gets in office, maybe not even 2 weeks. All of a sudden, they pull it off, and all of a sudden, COVID is not as bad. So, you know, just that little indicator right there is showing there was something going with this. So Dr. Michael, we're getting close to the end of our segment here. Let everybody know where they can find the book. Is Fauci's Fiction. Go ahead and let them know where they can find it. And also tell them about your podcast, because we want to advertise that as well.
I appreciate that. I just started it. The podcast is called Mike's Right. We just released our 3rd episode. Maybe I'll have you on there, Isaac, as a
anytime.
guest. I'd love to talk about. I have a lot of friends in Louisiana. We did some projects with my my charity, Hometown Heroes, down there years ago. So I always miss you guys. I'd love to see you. The book, you can find it anywhere books are sold. I always tell everybody Amazon's the easiest way. Fauci's Fiction, it's available anywhere books are sold. You can go to my website, michaeljschwartz.com, or you can go to faucisfiction.com, which takes you to my website. You can find the Amazon link. So check it out. Look it up. It's doing pretty well. It's getting great reviews, and I hope everybody checks it out.
And the cover is on the screen right now, and go ahead and check it out. So, Dr. Michael, thank you for coming on. And like I said, like you said, if you want me on, let me know anytime. I would love to come on and chat with you and give you some Cajun wisdom.
It is a deal, Isaac. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Now, before we get off, though, I say this all the time. If you have in Louisiana, let me know. We'll get some good food. But, you know, you've been down here. How is our food down here? You know, because you're from up north, if I'm not mistaken.
I am, but I'm in a different. I'm at the Jersey Shore. It's kind of like its own country, so it's not what you think of New Jersey. It's almost it is a different world. I love New Orleans. I got a lot of friends in Baton Rouge, so I've been out through that corridor mainly, where I between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. It's kind of where my it takes me. But when I get into town, I'm usually in New Orleans. The food is excellent. We have good pizza up here, though. So
you might make my wife happy if I'm ever in New Jersey. You're gonna have to show us all the good pizza places. She loves pizza. Look, we buy Domino's so much they send my wife's gift cards every quarter. So. But yeah, Dr. Michael, it's I will say this. I will give you credit on something. You didn't say Baton Rouge. You said Baton Rouge. You've been in Louisiana long enough. I know you can speak our language. So
thank you, my friend.
No problem, Dr. Michael. See you next time. That was Dr. Michael Schwartz, the writer of Fauci's Fiction. Go check out his book. Go check out his podcast, Mike's Right. Great guy, great book. What I've read so far on Amazon, go check him out. It'll help out this fellow conservative out and this fellow doctor to get the facts out there. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and take our break, and we'll be back with Alan Seabaugh, Senate candidate for District 31 here in Louisiana. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back in a few moments.
Cheers and good on you, boys and girls. My name is Scott Ford, and I have a show on Rumble. It's the Scott Ford Show, all one word. The Scott Ford Show, all one word, and it's on Rumble. I'd be very happy if you went ahead and subscribed. Like Isaac, I'm a true American-loving patriot. Thank you, Isaac. God bless. Enjoy your life.
You're my peace of mind. When this old world seems to get me down.
Oh yes, when the world seems to get me down, the Lord will lift me up. That's a great song right there, and a great reminder that don't let life get you down. So without further ado, we have Mr. Alan Seabaugh. He is running for Senate seat 31, but he's currently the House Representative of District 5. So, Mr. Allen, how you doing, sir? Welcome back to the Cajun Conservative Show. Oh,
having you back. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Glad to have you back. And I remember last time we talked on this program, I said you're always welcome back whenever you want. And I reached out to you. We got a lot to talk about. So, how's the campaign going?
It's going good. It's been a long campaign, but we're in crunch time now. There's about 5 weeks left, And campaigns go through different phases. We're entering the final home stretch, which is the one that really matters. So we're getting there. It's been a long campaign, but I'm really happy with where we are.
How you doing in polling wise, or have you got any data? Did anybody do any polls up in your area?
Yeah, there's been a couple, and it's relatively tight, but it's breaking my way. The fact of the matter is, I actually have a record and experience, and I know what I'm doing. And my opponent is a basketball coach, and people are figuring out that if you want a basketball coach, you hire a basketball coach.
Right.
But if you need a legislator, find somebody that actually knows what they're doing, that's been down there. And as time goes by, more and more people are figuring out that I actually know what I'm doing, and we need somebody in Baton Rouge that knows the ropes, that understands the issues, and knows how to get things done. And as time goes by, I can feel that momentum building our way.
Mr. Allen, do you think this is they're trying to set this up because you and Blake sound like you have a lot in common in your races? They put people in there that a lot of people like but don't have experience. Do you think that's the Good Old Boy Network trying to keep the Senate the way it is right now?
Oh, 100%. And again, the people that are against me and Blake, some of them are the same people and some of them are different. In my case, it's mostly the trial lawyers and Democrats who put my opponent in the race. Blake's, I think, is driven a little more local. But it's a slightly different issue, but it's the same group. And yes, there are people who don't want change. They don't want reforms. They don't want to fix Louisiana because they're making all the money off the system as it is now. So they don't really want a new governor and a conservative legislature to come in and start fixing some of these things because they're living high off the hog and making money on the system now.
So how's the district out there? I know because you were representative. It's a smaller district than a Senate seat. What area does 31 cover, and how does it feel spreading out to more areas?
Well, my representative district is almost all within and right around the southern part of the city of Shreveport. It's a lot of neighborhoods, whereas my representative district is 10 parishes, almost all of which is rural. So it's all of Northwest Louisiana, from Shreveport to Alexandria, and from Winfield to Texas, all of Sabine and Red River, parts of Caddo, Bossier, Webster, Bienville, DeSoto, Rapides, Wynn, and I think I said Bienville twice, but and part of Natchitoches. But yeah, it's all of 2 parishes, parts of 8 others, basically all of Northwest Louisiana. It's very, very, very rural. The 2 largest cities entirely in the district are Manny and Mansfield. And if you're not familiar with Manny and Mansfield, neither one of them is very large. So it's very, very rural district. A lot of miles between houses.
So you have a good shot out there. You say it's tight, but it's swinging your way, and that's what we need. We need more people like you, and it sounds like you got a lot of area to cover, and you have a good reputation up there.
Yeah, and look, my family's from all over. My dad grew up in Sabine. My mom grew up in Natchitoches. My wife's family's from Natchitoches. I have relatives in Red River and Wynn. I've lived in Caddo most of my life. A lot of friends and relatives in Bossier. So we're really, I have friends, relatives, cousins all throughout the district, family all throughout the district, and frankly, I've grown up all throughout the district. I've been hunting and fishing all over the district, all over Northwest Louisiana all my life. So I'm very familiar with it. I've driven a lot more of the back roads the last year and a half than I have most of the rest of the first 55 years of my life. But I'm very well aware of which roads needs fixing. And, I wish I had written down the mileage on my truck before we started. I would like to know how many miles I put on my truck, but we're really having a ball. The people of this area are no offense to you, South Louisiana folks, but these are the best people in the world. And I love,
we got better cooking. We got better cooking.
I love the folks in Northwest Louisiana. Look, my wife's family's from Evangeline Parish.
I got
But I love her dad's family. Her mom's from Natchitoches. I love the people in Northwest Louisiana, and I'll take them over anything. But we're really having a ball. Saturday night we were at a rodeo. A couple of days before that, we were at a festival in Zwolle, and we're all over Northwest Louisiana and having a blast every day.
So going forward, I'm assuming you're getting elected, and that's where we're gonna go with you when you get elected. That's how I'm gonna say from now on, because Louisiana needs a change, Mr. Allen. It needs a change. And look, last legislative session we had some wins, but you were one of the 19 that stood up. And look, thank God for you. Thank God for Blake. Thank God for all the other 17 that went ahead and did not cave to the spending cap. That was one of the losses we had, but overall we did have a good legislative session. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me if I am. The House side is fine, but is the Senate side?
That's an accurate assessment. The House side has been fine, and it can be better. And I do believe it's going to be better going forward, because you're going to have a speaker who gets elected by Republicans instead of Democrats. So I do think the House will de facto be better, just simply because John Bel Edwards will not be exerting his influence over the liberal Republican, the rhinos. Once that's removed from the equation, the House is going to be much better. The Senate is where the battle is.
And now, I know it's just not you and Blake that's running that are conservative. There's many more conservatives that are running out there as well. So we have a good shot.
Yes, we do, and I feel comfortable that we're going to win. I think we're down to 5 or 6, maybe 7 races that are going to determine control of the Senate. And look, don't be fooled. Everybody kind of assumes Jeff Landry is going to be the next governor. But there's a group of Republican senators out there who are organizing opposition to Jeff within the chamber, so that to try to block any changes which might come down the pike. And so they're openly, actively organizing opposition to the incoming Republican governor before the election. And, the field is set, and, we know what the issues are, and we know what the fight is, and it's going to be a fight.
Hey, it's funny though, you talking about that. There are certain Republicans that are teaming up against Jeff already. Alan, we don't see that in the Democrat side. We don't, that's why I don't want to. Look, I love the Republican Party. I'm glad to be. There was a while back I thought about leaving the Republican Party, but Democrats don't do this. Democrats don't fight with one another. They work with each other. It's just us Republicans that we can't get along and can't find common ground to stop the Democrat Party and to stop the wokeness and the left-leaning agenda of this state.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's the majority of us in Baton Rouge are Republican, and that's 2/3 of both houses now. But I'll say this, the Republicans have been a majority since I was elected, never served in the minority. So we've never once been outvoted by Democrats, but we lose all the time. But that's because the rhinos, the liberal Republicans who run for office, they tell their constituents they're conservative. They tell their constituents they're going to go to Baton Rouge and do the right thing. And then they go down there and they side with the Democrats. That's exactly what I'm running against in my race. I've got a guy with a good reputation. He's a nice guy. Was a basketball coach. If you look at his bullet points on his push cards, he's saying the same things I'm saying, and he's taking the same positions I'm taking. But if you look at who's supporting him, it's the old school Democrats, Foster Campbell, Public Service Commissioner, and it's trial lawyers from all over the state, people that don't want the system to change, and that's who's backing him. So he can stand before the camera and say, I'm a good conservative Republican. Fact of the matter is he isn't. When he first announced he was running, he was an independent, said he was going to run as an independent, just switch parties in order to run. That's exactly the kind of mistake Louisiana can't afford to keep making.
So going on that point, he's an independent and a Republican. There's only 2 of y'all that's running in this race, correct?
That's correct.
So election night, we should know if you are a senator or not. We should be able to call here at the Cajun Conservative Studio, hey, Alan Seabaugh is senator that night, because there's only 2 of y'all running.
That's correct. Yes, 2 of us. We should know by 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Well, we'll be on the air covering all the election coverage around Louisiana, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this election night because I think things are going to change in Louisiana, and we need good conservative leadership in Baton Rouge.
We do. I'm going to take it a step further. It's not going to end on election night. It's going to start on election night.
Right.
I do think we're going to win, and I do think we're going to, Blake's going to win, and we're going to move the needle. We're going to elect better people than have been there in the past. But the key is going to be after the election. We need to not elect people and then say, okay, congratulations, you won, good luck. We need to stay on them and show them, that, especially the new people that have never been in the legislature before, what it means to be conservative, how a conservative acts in Baton Rouge. We need to prepare them for the hits that they're going to get. Because when you go to Baton Rouge, you instantly get hit by the middle and the left trying to pull you to their side. And a lot of what they're selling looks good. And they dupe a lot of people. There's a lot of people that ran for office as good conservatives that really, I think in their heart, believed they were good conservatives. And then they go to Baton Rouge and they start drinking the Kool-Aid and the liberals and start telling them how wonderful they are. Then all of a sudden you've got a complete turncoat. Like, again, I probably shouldn't name names, but Barry Ivey comes to mind. Barry Ivey was elected to the House as a good conservative House member. It didn't take him but a year or two to start proposing tax increases, siding with the Democrats in redistricting. You name it down the line, Barry Ivey has been an extreme leftist and has been a thorn in the side of conservative governance and conservative opposition to John Bel Edwards for the last several years. But now he's running for Senate trying to tell people that he's a good conservative. It's just ridiculous. I truly don't think he's lying. I just think he's ignorant and doesn't know the difference. Because he got down there thinking he was conservative, and he got bought in by the process, and he bought it. So now he's running against a guy like Rick Edmonds, who really is conservative, and that's one that we absolutely have to win, because Rick Edmonds is a very good representative. Barry Ivey is a very bad representative. One of those two is going to be the senator, and I hope it's Rick.
And like I said, that's a lot of close races that we have to keep an eye on, and we have to make our voices heard as media, well, conservative media here in the state of Louisiana. And I think that's along with the Hayride, that's along with Moon Griffon and all these great people that tell people, look, these are the people you need to vote for, and these are the people you don't need to vote for, and show their voting records. You have to show the receipts.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And again, once election day gets here and people get elected, then we need to stay on them, because that's the mistake that we've done in the past. I've seen it multiple times. People get elected and you say, okay, good, now good luck. We need to stay on them. And the people that help them get elected need to stay on them, hold their feet to the fire, make sure that they stay committed to the values that they espouse during the campaign. Not enough people do that when they get to Baton Rouge.
You know me, I'm going to be calling. You know me, I'm going to
appreciate it. You're not going to have to worry about me.
No, and you could tell the audience there were some issues that came up in the legislation that I was like, legislators, and I was like, hey, Alan, what's going on here? Because there was a lot of things we were confused on, and I think you texted me back and then you called me. We had a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I always try to do is shoot straight. I may not be with you on everything, and if I'm not going to be with you, I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to be with you, and I'll tell you why. One thing I've done through my time in the House is I've not been one of these that just tells everybody what they want to hear. I'll explain the issue, and if I can't be with you, I'll tell you. I've tried to keep my promises and to be extremely honest with everybody. That's one of the things. I had somebody criticize me by telling me I was one of the most honest members of the legislature, because I always told everybody exactly where I stood. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. And I'm going to keep doing that, because we don't have enough people, standing firm for their constituents back home. It's really easy to go to the Senate and become a senator for the Senate, and you're representing the good old boys and the people in the office next to you, and trying to stick together and have each other's back. That's fine. Somebody needs to have the backs of the people that elected you, the people that sent you there. And that's, I'm going to never, ever, I have not lost sight of that in the House, and I'm going to do my best to not lose sight of that in the Senate.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Senate coming up. We're gonna say you're gonna get elected. Let's say you get elected, and your first day in office as a senator. I know you got to move offices from the rep side to the Senate side, but after the moving process, what are y'all first? What are your first thing y'all gonna do in the Senate when you get there? Like I said, you're part of a great conservative group. I know y'all all got some plans. So what's your first mission to go into the Senate with?
Literally, the day we get sworn in, we're going to elect the Senate president, and that's going to determine the direction of the Senate. That's where we lost it 4 years ago in the House when the 23 rhinos went over and sided with the Democrats and picked Clay Shake-Snyder as Speaker. That's when the term kind of went off the rails. With the new Republican governor coming in, we're not going to be able to afford to make that kind of mistake. So literally the first thing we do after getting sworn in is elect a Senate president. And we're going to have to elect a good conservative chosen by the majority of the Republicans in the room to be the Republican Senate president. And once we do that, two things that need to be addressed immediately. Jeff Landry's talking about a special session dealing with crime. It's got to be addressed. Some of the issues can't be fixed legislatively, but some of them can. And the issues that can be addressed legislatively, we need to do it right out of the chute. And then the Tim Temple, the new insurance commissioner, is requesting a special session dealing with insurance rates. And I agree with him. There's certain things that we can take care of legislatively that we need to. We owe it to the people of Louisiana to do everything we can to make their life safer, to make it less expensive, to make it easier to live and work in Louisiana. So I hope we can hit both of those, late January, early February, before we get into the regular session.
And that would work, especially the insurance part. That would work for me personally because, look, I work with my dad. We're small business owners. And one of the things that are killing us in the trucking industry is the insurance. It's just so high, Representative Allen. It's sometimes we wonder if we can even pay the bill, and that's bad because states like Texas. This is why a lot of trucking companies are leaving Louisiana and going to Texas. Insurance ain't that high in the state of Texas.
Well, yeah, I was actually talking to the owner of a trucking company last week, and the first thing I said was thank him for staying in Louisiana, because we have a lot of trucking companies that used to operate in Northwest Louisiana that aren't here anymore. They moved over to Texas because the insurance on their trucks is so much cheaper, and the income tax situation. It's just one of the many examples of jobs that Louisiana loses, income that Louisiana loses to states like Texas because their government is better than ours. And that's a shame because Louisiana has a lot to offer. We have the best people in the world.
Yep.
Louisiana has a lot to offer. Great natural resources, great culture, great people, great college football. We have a lot to offer, but we've never, ever had great government. We've always had bad government. And it's putting us at the bottom of all the lists you want to be at the top of. And shame on us if we don't fix it. And I think 2024 is going to give us the best opportunity in my lifetime and maybe in a couple of centuries to actually fix the state of Louisiana's structural problems.
So besides the Senate, you mentioned Tim Temple, you mentioned the Jeff Landry in the governor's race. Before we clock off, get off the air. What other state race are you looking at? Because we mentioned some Senate races. We mentioned, I know Danny McCormick's running for state rep again in District 1. And, our state rep ran unopposed, so he's going in there. So we already know in District 46 who's our state rep. But there's a lot of races in Louisiana, and a lot of the big ones, lieutenant governor, and all that. Which one you're eyeing the most besides the governor's race?
Well, we have 3 Senate races going on in Northwest, or actually 4 Senate races going on in Northwest Louisiana right now that are very hotly contested. You have mine. You have Thomas Presley running for it's Barry Milligan's Senate seat. Barry chose not to run again. You have Thomas Presley running against former Senator John Milkovich. And that's a really classic good guy versus bad guy race. John Milkovich was a disaster as a state senator. He switched from Democrat to Republican and hopes nobody remembers what he did when he was a Democrat, but he was an absolutely atrocious state senator. And then across the river in Bossier and Webster, you have Robert Mills against Adam Bass. Robert Mills did us all a favor 4 years ago when he ran against Ryan Gaddy. Ryan Gaddy was the worst rhino down there, a guy that ran as a Republican, but showed up to do everything he could to help John Bel Edwards and do all the wrong things for 4 years. Robert Mills stepped up and ran against him, but he ran against him saying, I'm not going to raise taxes. I'm going to vote for a fiscally responsible budget. I'm going to do all the right things. And then he went to Baton Rouge and he voted to raise taxes and he voted to bust the spending cap and did everything he said that Ryan did. And so they got a guy named Adam Bass that's running against him that is trying to run for all the right reasons and do the right thing. So those are 3 Senate races. They're all all candidates are Republican. All in Caddo and Bossier, Northwest Louisiana, that are really good guy versus bad guy races. And then you have an all-Democrat race to replace Greg Tarver, where you have former Representative Barbara Norton, current Representative Cedric Glover, and current Representative Sam Jenkins running in that race. And I think we're going to have all new senators from Northwest Louisiana. This year. And so, those races are very important for Northwest Louisiana, but statewide, the Attorney General's race is huge. Liz Murrill has been working with Jeff Landry for 8 years. I think it's vital that we get her in as Attorney General.
Yeah, that's a tough race with Clay Shakes. Oh, no. I'm thinking with John Snyder and then Marty Mealy. So
yes.
Look, I've met Mr. Marty as well. Great guy. I think him or Liz would be a great fit. To be honest with you, I don't see John winning that race.
Well, look, I kind of don't either. But look, John Stefanski and I served together in the House for almost 2 terms. And Marty Mealy I know pretty well. Those are good guys. I like them both. I consider both of them friends. I think Liz is better set up to do the job. And I think experience matters, and I think she brings a lot more to the table to actually get the job done. And the other one that's kind of close to me is the treasurer's race. You have former Congressman John Fleming against current State Representative Scott McKnight. Again, I consider Scott McKnight a friend. We've served together in the House for 4 years, but he voted to bust the spending cap, and he's been somewhat fiscally irresponsible on a couple of things. John Fleming, look, absolutely conservative House member when he was in Congress in Washington, one of the original 9 founders of the House Freedom Caucus in D.C., worked in the Trump White House. And that's a guy, a medical doctor, a very successful businessman. So that's somebody who's putting himself up as a potential state treasurer that I think we need to, Louisiana would greatly benefit from his federal connections, his DC connections, his business experience, and everything else that he would bring to the table. That's a really good example of somebody who's ready to step in on day one. So those are some statewide races that, we can really move the ball by putting the right people in.
And you talking about John Fleming. If people want to go hear John Fleming, he was on my last episode of the Cajun Conservative, and that interview's on YouTube now. So you can go ahead and check it out.
Okay.
Real good. I love John. Dr. John's a great guy. I met him at an RPEC meeting the other day. He was real fun to be around, and then we got to talk last episode. So, yeah, he's a good candidate. I think everybody should vote for Dr. John.
I agree. And full disclosure, his son's married to my daughter, so we share a grandchild.
Oh, so there's no bias right there, huh?
No bias at all. No, not at all.
So Mr. Allen, the last question I want to ask you, and this is concerning 9/11. At the time of this recording, we are recording this on 9/11, but it will be after 9/11. And my last episode, I talked about 9/11 and about the how tragic it was, but how America was together. Just reflect back on that day, Mr. Allen. What do you think about 9/11, or what are your feelings when 9/11 comes around? And just give us a little bit of insight of what maybe you were doing that day in remembrance.
Well, I was practicing law. I mean, I was driving to work that morning, and my wife called to tell me a plane had hit the Trade Center. I thought it was like a small plane, like a little Cessna or something. I didn't realize it had been a big commercial airliner. I think when the second one hit is when that's when everything changed. When the second one hit, we knew it wasn't an accident. It was a coordinated effort, and everything changed that day. I actually stopped in the middle of the day to go take depositions. The tower fell while I was in depositions.
Wow.
So we were completely off, no media. And then when the depositions were over, I had all the voicemails and people telling me that the tower had fallen. Interestingly, that afternoon, I had a conference with a judge in Benton, and I drove up to Benton, and Air Force One flew right over my car because if you remember Bush's first statement that he made, first press conference after the attack, was from Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City.
Okay.
I was driving north past the base to Benton, and Air Force One with the fighter escorts flew right over my car and landed at Barksdale. And then when I got to the courthouse, I went in the side door where the sheriff's office was, and the judge was in there with the sheriff listening to the radio, and they looked at me and they said, "They're saying on the radio that Bush is at Barksdale." I'm like, "Well, yeah, he is. He literally just flew over my car." But at the time, nobody knew why he was at Barksdale. It was a little bit after that he made, his first statement after the attack. And, something happened to America after that it was good to see. The country came together. People went to church that night. I had a guy that I was practicing law with at the time that was kind of lost, went to church that night and was saved and
wow.
Gave his life back to God that day. And it literally turned his life around. So our country changed that day for the better. We came together stronger because of that event and after that event. I'm afraid we've gone a little bit off the rails since then. And I'm not saying we need another 9/11 to bring us back together, but we need to, on a day like today, we need to remember what it was that brought us together. Why, the conversations that we had were a little bit different on September 12th and September 13th of 2001 than they were the couple of days before. And that wasn't a bad thing. It brought us together in ways that we hadn't been since the Cold War. I grew up with the Cold War, with the specter of the evil Soviets having nuclear bombs pointed at us. We had nuclear war drills in our elementary school, and we always lived with the specter of World War III and potentially being annihilated. We had that evil empire, bad guy enemy to point to that drew all Americans together. It went away when the Cold War ended. 9/11 kind of reminded us that we still live in a dangerous world. Just because there's not another superpower over there, we still live in a dangerous world, and there are bad guys who really don't want the United States to thrive, and they don't want what's best for us. And we need to get our life in order. We need to get ourselves in order. We need to get this country in order, because there's people out there trying to divide us, trying to hurt us. And some of the things that we squabble about between, Republicans and Democrats back home here become less important when you start looking across the world at people that are trying to blow us up. I think 9/11 brought that to the forefront. It helped bring some of those feelings to the forefront, try to bring people together. And we need to go back and remember the Cold War and what brought us together. Remember what brought us together after 9/11. Try to regain some of that, because this is still the greatest country on earth. And we need to fight and do everything we can to fight to preserve it and protect it. And that's one of the reasons that I've run for office in the past. It's one of the reasons I'm still running, because I'm not going to give up on this state or this country. And as long as I can contribute, I'm going to do everything that I can to contribute.
And we need more people like you, Mr. Allen, to be honest with you, because there's another side of the political realm. They want to take away our freedoms and take away our rights. But if we stand firm, we're not going to back down.
I'm not backing down.
Not backing down. I'm not wearing a mask either, just giving you a heads up. Mr. Allen, if anybody...
I'm right there with you.
If anybody wants to get with you to talk about your campaign or what you believe, how can they get in touch with you?
My website's alanseabaugh.com. That's ALANSEABAUGH.com. Email is alan@alanseabaugh.com. Phone number is 318-470-2996. Give me a call. I'll be, look, I do my best to answer or return every phone call that I get. Give me a call, email me, text, however you want. I appreciate all the help we can get. And, we're running a 10 parish campaign, been at it for a year and a half, got 5 weeks left, and we're going to finish strong.
Finish strong, my brother. We'll be keeping you in prayer, and this show will officially endorse you tonight. So if you live in District 31, Senate District 31, please vote for Alan Seabaugh. We need him, people like him in Baton Rouge. He can come down to Baton Rouge and eat some good Cajun cooking. I'm just saying. Next time you're in Baton Rouge, you better give me a call, because I want you to come sit down across the table from me, and we can drink some coffee.
I would like that.
That'd be awesome.
I was actually in Baton Rouge yesterday. So.
Oh, well, I was at the church too. I was working, so.
yeah. My youngest daughter is a student at LSU, got proposed to yesterday.
Hey.
We knew it was coming, so we all snuck to Baton Rouge so we could be there for the surprise when they got back to his house. So, so my youngest is about to get married.
Man, that makes you feel young, huh?
Well, no, it makes me feel old, actually.
That's why my
daughter getting married. She was actually about 3 months old on September 11, 2001. So 2 months old. She was born in July. So she was a little baby when that happened. And so I kind of always associate her with how much time has passed since 9/11. And no, I don't like the fact that she's about, I like her and I like the guy she's going to marry. I'm happy about that. But it does make me feel old that my youngest is about to get married.
As my good friend Gabe Swagger says there in Baton Rouge, you're not old, you're a recycled teenager.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Allen, until next time, man, you be blessed, you be encouraged, and we'll be praying for you in your race.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
That was Mr. Alan Seabaugh running for Senate District Seat 31. If you live in those districts, please vote for Mr. Allen. We need good people like him in Baton Rouge, and to get this state back on the right track. So with that being said, that's all the time we have for this episode of the Cajun Conservative Show. Please remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow button on the platform you're listening on. Remember, if you're on YouTube, hit the bell. Very important. So until next time, be blessed, be encouraged. Remember, Jesus Christ is King. He's coming back, and he's coming back soon. So don't be faint of heart, because Jesus has overcome the world. If you want to know Jesus, your Lord and Savior, reach out to me. I'll tell you how to make Jesus your Savior. In heaven, your home. Until next time, be blessed, be encouraged. You have a good one.
And he